back at the land of juice. Figured I'd show a little bit of the way these dry sump systems work. A lot of people ain't too familiar with them if you're obviously not racing a super late model car. But this right here it's a 5-stage system because I mean you just got 5 stages, so easily distinguishable ordeal, and everything steers and works off of this belt drive. You got a belt that's attached to another gear that's on your flywheel, and as the motor spins, this pulley spins, and there's a shaft all the way through here where your power steering pump fastens on the back side, and it turns it as well in one motion, and then you have a fuel pump that goes actually backwards, but on the back of this, and then everything all rotates. And while we're on that subject, that's kind of what happened to me at the National. I had a problem with power steering, and what ended up happening was I believe we had the pop-off valve ball, if I have this correct, wasn't allowing the pressure to I guess bleed off or something like that. That's what we assumed, but we was blowing seals out, and what was happening is the seal would blow out, and I would just lose fluid. And then we got that resolved, and I had another incident at Sonoa that created a whole nother power steering problem. And what had happened what happened was this shaft right here, that goes in the back of the oil pump, it actually had stripped. And what we figured out, we think happened, was when we took such a hit, and the steering for a split second, kind of locked up with the hit, that maybe it created such a lock with this rotating and spinning that it stripped it off. It stripped the hex off because also the motor wouldn't run. It was like starting for fuel. So when this stripped on the backside, then the fuel pump obviously wasn't getting rotated, and created that whole problem. And so just for future reference, if you kind of run into that, I mean that's a possibility what happened. But basically the way this system works is you're going to have your oil tank to the back of the car, and the pressure line, these are all the in, this suction pulling oil in and this pushing out, and the oil line comes in on this pressure side right here, and it's normally a 16 line. And then from this point here, then you come out, and you're either going to go to your most of the time you go to your filter, your oil filter, so it'll come on out, it'll come to your oil filter where it's screwed on, and from there it goes to your oil cooler, and from your oil cooler it goes through, makes this little passage, comes out, and then most of the time on my motor it goes to the front of the engine. And so at that point it's going into the engines, it's doing this oiling process, and then this is where this all comes in after that. So once the oil goes to the engine, does its ordeal, then you're gonna start scavenging, and these right here, these 3 right here, are going to be attached to the oil the oil pan at the bottom of the motor. And you'll see some various different sizes, different engine builders like 16, or 12 or whatnot. Clements likes 116 and 2 12s. And so the oil will come through these lines right here, they'll scavenge out, and then what happens at that point is they push out on these 2 16s right here, and then this will go back to the oil tank. And once it goes back to the oil tank, there's a Oberg filter, and it does a rough filter, it catches all your I guess your main particles if you're starting to have a problem. It goes through there and then back in the reservoir, and the process starts over. What's nice about that setup is it allows to do a really easy periodic check, checking that Oberg, being able to know if it's got you got any problems coming. And this particular line right here, this goes to, I missed it, my bad, but it goes to the back of the engine block, and it also scavenges out in the back as well. So these 4 lines right here, they're pulling the oil out of the motor, and it's going into these, you know, it's going into these right here, and it's scavenging them out, it's pushing them back to the oil tank, and really that's pretty much how it works. Like I said, this is kind of where we had a problem. You know, that hex right there got stripped out, and so that's what happened. And I'll show you exactly the way this works. See, here's the oil tank, and this right here is that main feed line I was talking about. You know, it'll run up to the oil, you know, pump and do its thing. But this right here is what's called a primer line. Some people run this system, some don't. The way it works is, if you know, it's got a little knob right here, and it spins, you know, with a 7/16 impact. And the way that works is it's simply, when you got a dry start, you know, scenario to where you haven't, you know, the engine hasn't ran for a few days or whatnot, or, you know, it's just a new weekend. A lot of people kind of has that, you know, thought that, well, they're just going to spin it over, and, you know, we're not going to flip the ignition on, and somehow that's going to prevent any sort of engine, you know, damage on bearings, oil related, because we don't have the ignition switch on. Well, I think people kind of forgets, in my opinion, that the compression, everything that's going on in the engine, even though the ignition switch isn't on, that is still there. It still exists. So, you know, anybody trying to prime an engine with oil, that by just spinning the motor over, there's a certain point that the bearings and the whole assembly, you know, didn't maybe have enough oil on it like it needed, but maybe after a few seconds it shot oil pressure and it got oil. So my philosophy is with that primer is, before I do anything as far as spinning the motor over, I'm going to prime that motor by spinning, you know, that knob, you know, nub, whatnot on that filter, and I'm going to get oil pressure on my gauge that signifies that oil shot out on my rocker arms, you know, my main bearings, cam, you know, wherever there is oil designed to go, it should have seen some. And by doing that, that's just further insurance that you can maintain good bearings, which is pretty much, you know, pretty vital, you know, with your motor. And by doing, I mean, I've had good luck and good results by doing that. And that's just a simple thing I like to do, because that's really all we can do with a race engine. I mean, with changing oil and filters. So, you know, that's a tech tip I do. All right, so we finally got it put together, and this is kind of how it works. That's ready to bolt in. Now, another thing I forgot to mention too is a couple key parts. Is this right here is going to be the adjustment on the pressure side. So you back that nut loose right there, and screw your Allen bolt out in. You know, if you want to adjust your oil pressure, and then really the biggest thing why a dry sump system is, you know, really better than wet sump, which is your traditional oil pump is, you know, submerged in the oil pan, you know, your normal Chevrolet style stuff, is you got all that oil that your crankshaft is spinning through, and it's drag. And that's really one of the big obvious deals. The other is the fact that the capacity of what that stock Chevrolet, you know, oil pump can really do is very limited. So when you go to getting up on horsepower and getting up, you know, on you know, everything we're doing, you have to up the oil capacity, you know, and how much flow you got, and to meet that demand. And so that's where this purpose-built oil pump systems come in. So really, there's, like I said, that's the two main obvious deals. Also, if you really want to get technical, the fact that you're able to remove that much oil sitting that much further in the car, now it's back way further. You know, you're talking probably 10 feet, as far as you can imagine a case of oil sitting on the car is further back. So weight percentage wise, you know, that's another benefit as well. You're moving some nose weight off the car. And that's, like I said, that's pretty much it. I mean, that's how it all works. You know, you have your You have your, this is gonna be your main supply line on your power steering pump. That's gonna be your 10. This is gonna be a 6, which is gonna be your pressure line coming out, going to your steering rack. And kind of the same with your fuel pump. This is gonna be your 10, your main feed line. And this is gonna be your pressure line going to your carburetor. And like I said, that's pretty much it. You know, I'm gonna try to think of like some more interesting topics that maybe, you know, the fan or somebody that really just don't know, give them a little insight as to how these cars work. Because I'll be honest with you, I mean, they're pretty basic, you know, race car. I mean, look, I'm a mouse clicker for a living, and I mean, it really fairly simple. I mean, I know how to nut and bolt something, but you know, I ain't a fabricator. I ain't really dangerous yet. We're working on it. We're gonna get us a welder. But yeah, I mean, these cars are real simple. They're fun. Everything is purpose built, and if you really try to research and learn as to why things are done the way they're done, I mean, it's a lot of smart people in the industry. And but I use the Barnes pump. I got a Peterson as well. I think they both do good. I also got that primer I was telling you about, and I think to tell you that it's a Peterson component as well. And real simple, you know, sweet power steering pumps. I got Waterman fuel pumps. Like I said, it's good, all good product. All right, another thing I really want to say, I'm learning this whole YouTube ordeal, and you know, it's pretty neat. I'm having fun with it. But the way this little ordeal works is you gotta show the support by clicking that subscribe button. That is the most cliche thing to say. I know it's annoying, but it's kind of the way it works. The more subscribes I can get, the more it helps me out to really kind of see, you know, if people's really watching. You know what I mean? I would assume people be interested, but you know, yeah, I don't know. I ain't got a clue. So if you can help me out, give me a subscribe there, and maybe share it or something like that. You know, I appreciate it. Cause really, I race and do, you know, but I'm a true fan of, you know, dirt late model racing. You know, that's what I grew up with, and you know, I know what it's like to not know, and you just see these cars on a Saturday night deal, and you know, so if I can enlighten folks on what's going on, you know, who knows? Maybe that's what'll help the sport even better. You know, the fans know more, and you know, want to be engaged more. You know, who knows? But you know, it's I'm just gonna have fun with it. And you know, if you want to comment, you know, some questions or something like that, you know, I mean, surely I can find a way to explain it or show some enlightenment on it. You know, maybe you know, just inform, answer your questions. I mean, but be glad to do something like that. That'd be cool. And like I say, appreciate anybody that's interested. You know, who knows, might turn out to be something a little bit bigger, you know, but I'm gonna have fun with it. So appreciate everybody doing what they do, liking it, whatnot. Thank you.